What's up everybody, Nick Brengle here, and today I want to walk you through my process for setting up this studio, my makeshift studio, office, bedroom, workspace, but specifically about talking to you, these talking head scenes, these moments in my YouTube videos, how I go about setting them up, recording the audio, and all that. So I've had a few questions again about how I record my audio, how I get it to be crisp and clean and sound great. And I've said this before, I've made other videos, I've mentioned it in probably most of my videos that audio is king. I think any YouTube creator, any filmmaker, anybody out there is gonna agree with me that audio is the most important thing, and that bad audio will ruin you, will ruin your videos. Most people will not stick around if there's a lot of hissing and it's peaking or it's too quiet and we can't hear what the hell you're saying. It's gotta be good, and it's not that difficult. If you just take a couple extra steps, you can do it, and we're gonna talk about that. You know, your camera, your lighting, your setup, the color grade, the white balance, what picture profile, all of these things are very important, don't get me wrong, but audio is king. Everything else comes right behind it. So I'm gonna walk you through really quickly how I set it all up. We're gonna go to a wide shot. We're gonna go from this Rode NT3 to a lavalier, and this is gonna be a little bit different than some of the other videos, but yeah, let's go. Okay, so the first thing that I do before I set up anything is I like to stage my area. There's not a lot going on, it's very minimal, but I still like to make sure things are where they need to be. Getting rid of anything on the desk that's just there, like my phone or my notes for my video, the script, any kind of gear that I don't want to be shown, anything like that, I clear that away. I decide what I want on the desktop of my computer, and then I kind of go from there and start setting up. Now obviously right now it's a little dark. We're about an hour away from sunset, so it's a little dark, but we're gonna fire up this light first and foremost to get that going. So I have this C-stand that I pretty much leave up all the time because I use it a lot up here in my studio. So yeah, I leave it up. Sometimes I do bring it places downstairs, use it for different projects, but for the most part, when it's home, it's right here. It's got this really cheap softbox that I've talked about before. I've owned it for years. There's just a regular bulb in there. I think it's daylight temperature, nothing special at all. It's very soft. So we'll go ahead and pull this out. So we get that plugged in, fire that up, bring it back up for now because we don't know exactly where we'll be. Up there, right? So we got the light. Typically I like to bring, if I'm gonna be sitting down, I bring the chair out a few feet from the desk just to give a little bit of that depth. And then if I'm sitting, you know, I make sure that the light comes down as close as it can without coming into frame. This doesn't. So you get the light up, that's pretty simple. Next, a lot of the gear is already out, but just to show you, pretty much everything I keep in my closet here. So I get my Pelican cases out, and I set up my mic stand. And right now the audio, we're recording on the Rode lavalier filmmaker kit, and that'll change here in just a minute once we get all set up. Next I get my Rode NT3. Again, talked about this microphone before. You can get them brand new, but you can get them used on eBay, anywhere from $100, $150. A lot of people use shotgun microphones. I own a Rode NTG2. I've had that for many years, but I've just found that I really enjoy the sound that comes out of this microphone. It's really easy to work with as long as you're controlling your environment. I did turn off the air conditioning before I started to record this video. There's no fans on, anything like that. Try to keep it as crisp as possible to bring you the highest quality sound that I can. So like here. And all this stuff I kind of level out at the end. I like to just get everything sort of generally hooked up and ready to go. And then I fine tune everything right before I record. So I get the microphone. Right now, we have the Tascam 60D that's recording this audio externally. So obviously that's gonna be changed over to the NT3 here in a minute. And you will see the difference of sound from this lavalier microphone to this Rode NT3. Another light that I've been toying around, another light that I've been using a little bit as just a, I don't know, background light, add a little bit of life to the scene is the Aperture AL-MX, and I've talked about it in the previous video, and I like to just kind of bust this guy out. I think the battery is good on it. Let's see. Yeah, it's all right. So I like to bust this thing out, and I'll just set it just behind the computer back here. Nothing special. And I'll just set that back there. I don't know, gives a little bit of life behind there. I don't know, it's just for the depth, who knows. All right, let's go ahead and move this guy. All right, so now we're here, we're sitting down in kind of a normal spot. I'm gonna bring it back out wide. We're at 16 millimeters. Typically I bring it into about 30, 35 millimeters, somewhere in there, just to have more natural look, not this huge, wide, I look tiny up close kind of thing. But just to show you, now here is the microphone. So if I'm sitting here, I'm gonna bring this microphone, and I'll show you this because I'll zoom in a little bit as well. But I'll bring this microphone down as much as I can. Okay. And as close to me as possible, as close to my mouth where I'm talking possible. And now if I zoom in to 35 millimeter, it's not in the shot. It's just outside, and actually I'll probably bring it up just a tiny amount more just to be safe. And now it is just out of that shot, but it's right there. Now as far as the lighting goes, I'll go ahead and bring you back out again. The lighting. And there you go. This is a pretty standard setup for something that I'm doing. So now that we're in this setup, I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to the Rode NT3. You're gonna hear a huge difference in sound quality. Not saying that this lavalier microphone isn't great, it is, but it's just not the same as a classic dialogue microphone that you can really get that crisp, natural, clean sound of somebody's voice, especially when you bring it into the editing room, which we will here in just a moment. Okay, so now we're recording with the Rode NT3 plugged into the Tascam DR60, and you can definitely tell the difference, like I said. And this is my setup. This is my typical sit down, talk to you. It probably takes me 10-15 minutes to get this set up. I typically like to shoot around 1 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon or earlier in the morning, just depends, because I am a huge fan of that natural light. Obviously getting close to sunset now, so you're seeing a little bit of a difference in this video from sun setting. There's probably going to be a few shots in here of the sun that's almost gone, so I'm using a little more lighting and things like that. And I'll actually show you right down here. You have the microphone, the light, and then I usually stand my Pelican case up. I have my Tascam here. I set it on my Pelican case. It's just a really good way for me to monitor my levels. Sometimes I have notes here and things like that, but yeah, I really like it. It's an easy, nice setup, and it's a way to utilize my Pelican case and not have a table or something extra that I need to shoot. So before we jump onto the editing floor for color grading and the way I edit the audio and all of that, just a few last tips and things I may not have said here in the past few minutes. And that is, as always, that microphone needs to be as close to your subject as possible. And when it comes to your levels, I like to be somewhere in that 10 to 14 negative dB range. That is where I feel comfortable going into editing the audio after the fact. I know I'm not gonna be too loud, I'm not gonna peak or anything like that, because if you peak, that's it, it's gone, and it's just gonna sound terrible. So that's definitely key when it comes to that. Another thing is having a custom white balance. I shoot an S-Log2, so most of the time when I'm doing something like this, because it's mine, I don't really have to pay as much attention to the exact color temperature. I sort of just pick a temperature that I like, that I'm used to, somewhere in that 47 to 5,000 Kelvin range, and I just stick with that. I pick one and I just shoot my entire video in that color temperature, and that makes it a lot easier in post to color match everything using LUTs and color wheels and the color board and everything that Final Cut gives you as a tool to make your videos look better than this flat, terrible image. So we're here at the computer. I'm going to walk you through the quick steps that I use in Adobe Audition to edit my sound. We'll go into Final Cut. I'll show you some basic color grading and just a couple of the simple steps that I walk through when I'm editing these videos. Of course, I want them to be really well made, but I also don't want to spend too much time just zoning in on specific little things, because I want to get these videos out. I want to make them as quick as possible, especially ones like this where we're just talking and I'm explaining different things and how I do things and gear. I don't want to spend as much time on the editing floor as I would when I'm shooting, you know, a short film or something that's a little more creative, a little more just cinematic, anything like that. So we're going to jump right into Adobe Audition, which is in Adobe's Creative Cloud Suite. Of course, if you have that, I recommend it. It's definitely worth it. So, you know, you have nothing here. So I'm going to go ahead and open the audio file. I'm just going to open up one of them for now. So this is how I come in. I open the file. I'm seeing exactly what you're seeing, just like this. The first thing I do, I go up to Effects, I go to Filter and EQ, Parametric Equalizer. I leave it at my custom settings. You can play with this all you want, but I've set it to some specific things, and I apply that. I wait a few seconds, that's done. I go back up to Effects, I go to Mastering, and I change this to Subtle Clarity. Now this is something I've done more recently. I'm always playing and tinkering around with things, but I've been doing this for a little bit. I go into Subtle Clarity. I have a few different settings here that I've adjusted, and I apply Subtle Clarity. That takes a few more seconds than the other one, but again, I mean, we're sitting here for 30 seconds, not even, and boom, that's done, and that is it. That's it. That's all I do to get a quick edit of my audio. That is absolutely all I do, and super simple. So we go into Final Cut. I've already created the library for it just before this to already have it ready, and now I need to have a new project. So when I go into new project, everything's already ready for me. 4K, the resolution's correct, 24 frames a second, ProRes. All of this, you know, you can adjust to your camera, your specs, whatever frame rate you're shooting in. And then I always give it some kind of, you know, whatever title. It's not that important to me. And so we created that project. Let's go ahead now and bring in that file. And so here I am standing there with my weird sweatshirt and nothing else going on, no lighting, just a little bit of, you know, that light that's coming in behind me from outside. Other than that, nothing, because it is what it is. And this actual shot isn't even the real shot because I did shut the door. So what I do is I go up to my color grade, my base grade, and these come in Final Cut. You'll have these, but I just like to put that base grade layer on there, and that's very important because it just will go across all your clips and it'll just help the rendering time so much more. So then I go over to my custom LUT and I drop that on there. But then I go up here first, after I drop that LUT on, before I do anything, I go up to my color board and wheels, I add my color wheel, and I immediately go to my temperature and set it to whatever it is that my color temperature was, which was 4700. And then I come back out to custom LUT. I drop that down to 50 right away. So let's just say we're going with this Osiris Vision 4. These are great LUTs. We're gonna go back into our color options and open up a color board. It's a little dark, so we're gonna bring up the highlights there a little bit, bring down the shadows, just why not, and toy around with the midtones, but I think we'll pretty much leave that be. And it's a little bit blue. I'm gonna bring up the saturation a lot, and then I'm gonna take that blue out. Pretty happy with that. That's fine. It looks pretty natural. It's nothing special, but it gets the job done. So, okay, well that pretty much does it for the setup here at the studio. I hope you enjoyed it. If this is your first time coming into this world, my channel, consider subscribing. Go watch a few other videos and see if you really like me or not. Hit the like button if you do. Throw a comment down below, and like I say in every video, create something every day. Learn something, create something, and move on to the next project, the next thing, whatever it is. Just do it. And I know the glasses were a little odd, but I do have glasses on today, and I do need them. So, you know, glasses.